The Peugeot designers must be still high-fiving themselves. When you look at the design of the brand from the 3008 when it first came on the market, right up to this present-day new model 408, they are a car that you just get double takes from all the time on the roads now. I was in the school run in this the other day and even the mothers were like, Jesus, that's a bit of alright, isn't it? And they definitely weren't talking about me. So this is a 39,995 Peugeot. That's the entry-level price. It's a 1.2, 130 brake horsepower, 3-cylinder engine. And if you want to spend 40 grand on it, what are you going to get for your money? On this episode of Nobby on Cars, you're going to find out. I've driven the plug-in hybrid version of this car in Sitges in Spain, but this is the entry-level price of the car. And in my opinion, you don't really want to be going into the late 40s on a car of this size. So maybe, unless you really want to go green and PHEV, just stick to the trusted 1.2, 130 brake horsepower version of the car. It has the updated badge, which GT line versions get on the side wings of the car also, and this matches the paint colour, so that's a beautiful thing. That is a gorgeous observation that someone said, hey, why don't we make that all work? You've got your line, tooths, claw, thingy-bobs here on your daytime running lights. They look very, very smart. It is a gorgeous car from any angle. So whether that's the side-on profile of it with that really low sloping roof side, I mean, it does slope down quite aggressively, but it doesn't seem to cause major issues in the back of the car. It's actually quite spacious, and we'll get to all that in a little while. This is on 19-inch alloy wheels. There are better looking versions of alloys available with the car, but I think they're okay. There's more black than silver, and there's a good bit of alloy wheel protection here. So if you're someone who's just attracted to curbs, they might be the type of wheel for you to go for. Oh, and these little things here, they're called cat ears, and they help with aerodynamics. Every day's a school day. This version, because it's the GT, has an electric boot, which you have to press sometimes twice, sometimes once, but it gets there in the end. It's over 500 litres if you go for the non-PHEV, and it's 471 litres if you go for the PHEV, because the batteries are under the floor. So actually you get a much deeper boot if you don't pay extra. It's mad, isn't it? Despite that extra non-battery space, there's no spare wheel, so get a little bottle of this. I presume that plugs into a tyre. Yeah, that's gunky. You can drive it no more than 80 kilometers an hour. Europe, huh? Taking out weight out of cars, coming over here, taking our spare tyres. I like the way the parcel shelf is connected to this part of the boot, and that just makes things getting out of the way easier. And you'll still fit a dog box into this, as I have done. There's elastic bands, and there's nothing really down there worth talking about. A little bit of a lip as well, but boot size, when you factor in how much space is in the back, it's actually a pretty good compromise. I suppose we do need to talk about this rear plastic bumper. It's an awful lot of plastic by 2023 standards. Would it have killed them even to put a bit of the same car colour? Like if they put the car paint on the grille, why not just a strip here? Maybe it would have looked awful. I haven't seen mock-up photographs. So I'm not sure. It's just a lot of black. It's a lot of plastic. You don't notice in the darker colours, and this beautiful red, which is kind of like Mazda's Soul Red, you really do notice that. So if you don't like that, get black. Speaking of dark colours, it's like Darth Vader black in here. Headlining is black, doors are black, seats are black. I mean, I like black, it's a lovely colour, but it is quite dark in the back of the 408. Can you brighten that up with a roof, glass roof? It's going to cost you more money. So maybe just kind of put up with it. Now, as I mentioned, there's still a fairly decent amount of head height. That's about 2 inches, 2.5 inches. If you're 6 foot, might be a little bit tighter, but you could probably sit a bit more in this way, and then you've got even more head space. So it is not the worst considering the design of the roof of the car also. You do get an armrest, thank you very much. You can even pull that out to adjust the size of your drinks. Good logical thinking there. Yes, there's a ski hatch, all right, calm down. Still have those zippy Isofix seat things that I'm not totally on board with. And there's 2 USB-C charging ports in the back, as well as air vents. Now you don't get your own climate, but you do get air vents and a little bit of storage in the back of the seats. There's room for feet, decent enough space for your knees, the way the backs of the seats are cut out. So actually, it is not the worst back seat of a kind of Grand Coupe design car by any stretch. Climbing on board then, just watch your knee off that little edge of the dashboard, because that could result in something quite painful, or just general shouting. I'm kind of getting used to this whole system from Peugeot because it works, it's functional. You've got shortcut buttons to everything you'd want, and then you've got shortcut buttons to digital things of everything you'd want, like CarPlay. And yeah, it's grand. Like, you can... It works a little bit differently to other infotainment systems, so you do kind of need to get your head around it a little bit, but I'm probably in 3 or 4 cars now with this new updated way of doing things, and I don't find it particularly laggy. I find the graphics and stuff are good. You've got TomTom nav on board. You can obviously hook up your CarPlay, your Waze, whatever software you like to get around in. And then you've got space down here for cups and armrests in here. More USB-C. I don't think there's a single USB port at all in the car, which is okay, you know. Again, I'm getting used to it, I'm adjusting. I love the dashboard and the fixtures and the fittings and the stitching, that's all good. You still have this Peugeot iCockpit, which people lose their about, so you can either see it or you can't. If you're over 6 foot, apparently it's quite hard to see. I'm not. So I generally put the steering wheel all the way down, because there's a lot of, there's a lot of adjustment in that. So you can go all the way up here. Now, if I do that, I can't see the instruments. Down here I can, but I have to go all the way to the bottom, and then you could potentially raise your seat up a little bit if you really wanted to see even the French flag down the bottom. But yeah, it works for me. It may not work for you. Jump into it in your dealer and see what goes. Cruise control and everything is here, so everything is within easy reach. It is quite snug though, you do feel a little bit cocooned, so that's something. But look, the interior matches the exterior really well put together and very, very stylish. Just copped, there's no rear wiper on the car as well. Some people that bothers them, like it's been a little bit of a light shower, so there's just spots of rain all over the back window. As soon as I hit the motorway, it'll probably disperse, so it'll be fine, but something to watch out for. So this 3-cylinder, 130 brake horsepower, it kind of has enough power. I mean, you're not going to be overtaking 3 40-foot lorries in a row or whatever, but there's enough there. Like, it's an around town. Is it a city car? Because it can do the long distance cruising. A full tank of juice in this will have about 700 kilometers of petrol to get you from your destination without stopping, without having to charge. So it does sound a little bit like a Daihatsu Charade now under load. But then when you're not revving it, it's fine. It's really, really quiet. But anytime you're going up a hill or you need a bit of power, you're going to be reminded that you went for the cheapest petrol option in the 1.2. But it's not even cheap anyway, it's 40 grand. So it's like, can't come out with that one really, can you? So one thing I do like about these Peugeot steering wheels, and it's probably a placebo effect, but they just feel sportier in your hands. So you kind of feel like you can take corners sharper. You can be a bit more direct with the steering. I mean, the steering isn't even that responsive. It's grand, it's average. So I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's all in here. Now, this is the GT version, so it has tons of stuff: 360 camera, blind spot, collision avoidance in the back, frontal collision. But even the entry levels do come fairly well spec'd, so that's not to say they don't. I like the way you can use CarPlay wirelessly or with the wire if you like, or your Android Auto, whatever that is. I love the way the instruments give you the nav maps also in your iCockpit view as well. Let's see if you can see it, depending how tall or not you are. See, sometimes it's not always being 6'2" isn't always the thing you want. Lane keep will make sure you behave yourself. If it thinks you're veering anywhere, it'll give you a sharp enough nudge in the steering wheel to say, hey, you, come on yourself. You also sit quite low down in this car, so it's kind of the opposite of the SUV, the crossovers that we have been buying in abundance over the last few years. So that again might be something that will rule this car in or out for you. You mightn't like that kind of low down. I personally do. It But again, if you're a car head, you'll prefer to sit down lower generally. Like there's a Saab convertible up ahead, and I reckon I'm nearly sitting the same height as him. It has to be him. It's March and he's the roof off. A woman wouldn't do that. It's definitely a man. So all in all, I think it's a good little family car. The question just is, do you want to spend that kind of money? And if you want the GT version, which this is, and it's lovely and everything, but do you want to spend a lot of money? And there's so many cars in the Peugeot range in Ireland that will be a bit more family orientated. So I do wonder who's going to buy this car over 3008 maybe, with everyone being so obsessed with crossovers. It's not that this is a lesser car or anything, even the boot's quite usable, but we like our crossovers in Ireland. So definitely 7 litres per 100 kilometres. That's across about 2,000 kilometres that this car has done. That's a fairly good estimate. It's an EAT 8-speed automatic gearbox in this car. Who wants to be changing gears anymore? You know, that's so last 5 years ago. So look, you're guaranteed loads and loads of looks from people. The question is, do you want to go to this price? Dum 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 dum. So this is a Darth Vader reference to the dark interior. Look, it is not a cheap car. It's 40,000 euro, and that's from the beginning, the entry level. This GT version, you got to add like a few thousand euro onto that. The plug-in hybrid is definitely better to drive in the sense of there's just more power. It's a smoother drive. This 3-cylinder voice does lend itself to a bit of from time to time. But I think just if you go beyond the kind of, like, as much as the GT line is really lovely, the Allure, as usual, is probably the place to go, because it will just get really, really expensive. And you'll be comparing it to other things going, but I could have this for that and that for that. And, you know, it's gorgeous, but it's not exactly cheap. That would be my way of looking at the 408. A comfortable cruiser, you know, nice on a motorway. 7 litres per 100 kilometres, between 42 and 47 miles per gallon, but just not cheap. Thank you very much for watching.